Was I just bitter, or was undergrad actually a terrible experience? For some of us, we finish college with our degrees in our hand, but we feel heaviness in our heart. And why is that? So yes, the degree may be the same, but the weight that we carry to earn it may be completely different. You cannot heal from a season that you refuse to acknowledge, where you're spending almost all of your energy just trying to survive it. It's just because all that ends doesn't mean your nervous system adjusts right away. So I felt like I could not express myself no matter what. I felt like I'm getting emotional, carrying shame for not having the best grades. I started carrying shame for being in a toxic relationship. We have to have grace for that version of ourselves that was just surviving, that didn't know any better, that didn't know all the resources they had, that didn't know who to go to. Like, I'm a girl from the hood, so it's Dreon Sabri. Hi, my name is Dreon Sabri Glover, and today I just want to talk about the slight bitterness for my undergrad experience. I've had conversations with other people who may have similar feelings after leaving their undergrad experience. I also seen a video of Les Alfred. She made a video, I seen her on a podcast talking about, like, when she finally paid off her student debt, she couldn't even applaud it just because I believe just because of kind of how her college experience was. And sometimes, depending on how that time period for us was, it's hard to look at it in a certain light. So her sharing that, it reminds me of how I graduated from college about 3 years ago now, and I've never even seen my degree. I've never cared to hold it, and I got a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering from the College of New Jersey, and I have yet to see the degree because that's another story, but they sent it to the wrong address because I was no longer living there. And I just did not care to go through the hoops to get it. Even just me talking to I was very frustrated initially, and I just left it alone because at that point it was like, I don't care. But hopefully by the time I'm posting this video, I put in a request to finally get that degree sent to me because I did work hard for it. But to really talk about the core issue about the mixed feelings about your undergrad experience, maybe it wasn't the accomplishment, maybe it wasn't just being in college, maybe it was what it actually took to actually get there, or what you went through while being in that period of your life. Because I know when I reflect, I have a lot of things that make me feel differently. And it's very, very hard to enjoy a season of your life where you're spending almost all of your energy just trying to survive it. For me, undergrad wasn't just the classes. It was the worrying about money. It was the working multiple jobs. It was worrying about paying bills. It was worrying about, being a part of so much and still trying to maintain what's going on in my home life or family life. And especially in a major like engineering, the coursework was definitely rigorous, but it did not help the situations I had outside of the coursework. So that's where I really started having a sour taste with my experience, because it kind of started to showcase the things that you were going through and highlighted them a little more closely, because after a certain point you start tying yourself a little bit more closely to your academic performance, your college experience, because that's the thing that you're supposed to be excelling in, but you have everything else in the background that you're still having to cater to and having balance for that. I spent a lot of time working, helping family, being a part of different organizations, and even from high school, that's kind of been how I've functioned. Always, if I wasn't at work, I was at school. If I wasn't at school, I was doing something for my org or being in a leadership position there. So I was always consistently busy. And I realized at that point, I wasn't really building the utmost memories. I was more so just building survival skills at the time. Two people can earn the same exact degree and experience two different college experiences. And this, like I said, this video is for the people who may still have that sour taste. And I know multiple people, but I think it really comes down to what experiences you've had. So I know if you're a first generation student, that is different than somebody who has had parents and grandparents who went to college. Some of us have lack of community and resources. I'm not in familiar territory, and it was very hard for me to navigate some of the time while I was there, and also have that support back at home to be able to do so confidently. And then sometimes family dynamics, I've had friends who they're the main person their family calls when their sibling does something, or being the main person family goes to, even being the oldest daughter, I'm heavily relied on. I think sometimes we just feel responsible for taking care of everybody or wanting to take care of everybody, and honestly, it's not always our responsibilities. And aside of all of that, we have the performance pressure. Maybe we've performed very well in high school, and now in college it's a whole different ballgame. Maybe it's not the same moving forward. And some students are carrying a backpack of different issues that they're having outside of their college experience. So now it leaves you to the question of like, what do I do? What am I going to excel in? And sometimes it brings up self-doubt as well, just based on your current circumstances. But I want you to know, and if you're going through this now, like, just know that it will always get better. But it is going to take some time. It is going to take some healing, and it is going to take some actually admitting to what you feel is wrong, admitting to what is hurting, because it's not always the coursework. Sometimes it's just everything else surrounding the coursework. And like, let's think of the student. The student is probably struggling in a class. They're trying to do this last assignment for a class that they may or may not fail, and then they get a call to deal with emotional weight from the family. That's something that actually happens, especially for first generation students, that a lot of people don't really get to see. And the reason it happens is because the people that you grow up with, or your families in the matter, they don't understand what it takes to actually earn this degree, because they haven't done it before. They haven't sat through the coursework. They haven't had to do all of this at once. And on top of that, you not having the full support that you see some of your peers may have, it starts building up so many different kind of feelings that you were not probably aware of before you started college. So yes, the degree may be the same, but the weight that we carry to earn it may be completely different. And that's why you still need to give yourself credit and grace and honor what you had to do to get there, because you were still able to accomplish it no matter what. And you were probably going through way more than the next person was. But being in survival mode in college, it doesn't just end when graduation happens. I realized I was stuck in the survival mode mentality. My motto was just hustling. Like I said earlier in the video, like if I wasn't at work, I was at this. If I wasn't at school, if I wasn't in class, I was doing this, and all of those different to-do lists every single day. Like, I literally had no peace time. Rest felt so unfamiliar, and even from high school to college, it's just busy. So readjusting after graduation is like, y'all, I got my first full-time engineering job. I'm from Jersey. My job moved me to Indianapolis, and I remember, I moved already, and I went to go get a job. Y'all, these birds. Okay. I went to go get a job at Starbucks at the same time of me starting my engineering job. And I remember telling my manager, like, oh yeah, I work at Starbucks. But from back then, I'm so used to working multiple jobs at once. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. And I remember telling my manager, like, yeah, I got a job at Starbucks as well. And she's like, why? Like, she was just genuinely confused. Like, she's like, are you just trying to pay down like extra debt? And at that time, I didn't have any debt payments to make at the time. So I'm like, no, I just have another job, because that was part of my normal. But after 3 months, I did quit. But like, my coworkers, my manager, they're like, why are you working at Starbucks? And because they're looking at me like, you're earning an engineering salary, you don't need a job at Starbucks. And even if you are getting a job at Starbucks, you're not working enough time to make a significant amount of money. So like, they were just confused. But for me, I was just so stuck in that like hustle, be on, go mentality that, having a moment of rest felt so unfamiliar, and I had to break myself out of that. So after 3 months, I did quit Starbucks. But that just brings me into like, just because the emergency of having to pay this, or having to make ends meet for this, or having to do this deadline, just because all that ends doesn't mean your nervous system adjusts right away. So I had to really take some time to really start learning myself and seeing like, okay, what's going to benefit me most in the long run. Because in college, you're just, especially if you are someone in survival mode, and I keep saying it because it took me a long time to realize that I was in survival mode, and that's how I was functioning. And when you are in survival mode, you're just so used to pushing on to the next thing. Like, it was to the point I was ignoring the emotions. I wasn't reflecting on anything about myself at all. I was just like on go, and pushing through everything. Like, it just made me realize how disconnected I was with myself. Like, I wasn't really celebrating things. I wasn't really grieving properly when deaths happened. I just kept in my head, I need to keep going. None of this matters. I need to keep going. And it was a big emotional realization for me. But in totality, you cannot heal from a season that you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot heal from a season that you refuse to give yourself permission to grieve. So, and I speak about like getting the job and hustling, but another thing that unveiled was the lack of emotional expression that I had during the time. Because I remember, I'm in Indiana now, I'm living, and y'all, I would start crying a lot more often. Like, I would cry if I'm happy, I would cry if I'm sad, and it just made me realize, like, and this is coming from the girl who would try to not cry at funerals, or, if something happened, I'll just keep it to myself. And doing that for so long, it kind of pained me and hurt my feelings to learn that, like, dang, I really felt like I could not express myself no matter what. I felt like, I'm getting emotional, but it just hurts to know, like, okay, I was so deep into like just worrying about surviving that I pushed off how I felt on a day-to-day basis off. I pushed off how things actually made me feel. Kind of just I pushed off speaking up for myself in situations that I probably should have. I pushed a lot down. Oh my God. Oh gosh. I'm trying not to cry because I got my makeup. But all of those things are real. And even during that time, once I'm starting to realize, like, okay, I'm a little more in touch with my emotions, I'm more aware now. And that's when I also realized, like, I I was starting to carry shame from that point in my life where I was just basically surviving. I started carrying shame for not having the best grades. I started carrying shame for being in a toxic relationship. I started carrying shame for all of these different things, and these were like heavy emotions I had to go through and actually heal through, because I used to convince myself like, damn, I used to really, like, during that time period, especially after college and finishing it, I'm like, man, I feel like I was such an idiot. I feel like I was so dumb. I felt like I wasn't enough in certain situations. And these were things like I was just pushing down during the undergrad experience. And now that's over, I'm like, now we gotta work through what we're feeling, and it just felt really good to finally have the personal safety to let my emotions be free. And I really had to forgive myself for not, I don't know, it was just so much. Oh gosh, and for years I genuinely thought I was not an emotional person. I used to be like, no, I'm not, like, and now I'm the biggest crybaby ever. And even now, like, my coworkers, like, I remember one of my coworkers telling me, like, she got engaged, and I'm crying tears of happiness and tears of joy. And, like, they're like, man, she a crybaby. But, like, y'all, I've had to earn this. I've had to earn my ability to be able to freely express my emotions. I had to earn the ability to just let it out and not care. And I think the best part of it all is that it's just very liberating. It makes me feel very free, because I'm not just pushing everything in anymore. And yeah, I'm so sorry. But, like, I don't know if anyone else. I'm so glad I bought tissues. Oh God. Hope I didn't mess up my makeup. I don't know what I look like right now, but we gonna continue. But for the most part, like, I just feel so much more free. And I know not for everybody, like, graduation is the pivotal point. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2 years, maybe it takes paying them student loans, but I think a lot of us, we kind of just bury that time frame aside and kind of just move on with our lives. We have to realize the season that sometimes breaks us is the same one that helps build us and be the person that we are today. Like, I would not be the Dreyon Sabrina Glover that I am today if I did not go through what I went through, if I did not experience and overcame my experience. So I don't hold any regrets towards it, but it took me a while to actually get that all wrapped around my head. We have to have grace for that version of ourselves that was just surviving, that didn't know any better, that didn't know all the resources they had, that didn't know who to go to. Like, we have to have grace for that, who we were in that point, so that we can move on from feeling this way in the future. But yeah, like, as much as I just kind of, I don't know if I trauma dumped or if I just kind of was rambling, but after talking about all the bad from undergrad, I can say there were some great things I did gain from that experience. I'm a girl from the hood, so it put me in environments that encouraged me to learn like how the corporate world works, how to better present ideas, how to build relationships, the importance of networking, and so many different things. And it put me in rooms that I necessarily probably wouldn't have been in without the college experience, and even being a part of NSBE. And NSBE is the National Society of Black Engineers, and I got to hold multiple leadership roles within the organization. You know, even just being able to do that and gain connections and lifelong friends, those were the great things that came out of it. And you know, it's okay to acknowledge what did go well while also acknowledging like, okay, you know, this was not my best time, this was not what I would actually like. I actually don't want my kids to experience this in this capacity. But in that time frame, I did learn resilience, I did learn discipline, I did learn how to have a great work ethic. I mean, I think all of these things kind of came prior to that, but getting the degree was kind of evidence of it, and having further proof of things that you probably already knew about yourself. You know, and I think I came to the point where I realized like maybe I'm not bitter because of the college experience. I just kind of grieved the version of myself that didn't really get to fully experience it and the way that, you know, maybe some of my peers may have or my classmates did. And that's kind of where we really had to sit back and really realize like, you know, there's so many different layers to it. There's so many different things to learn from it. And, you know, I have to really give myself a pat on the back and give myself grace for that time frame and understand, like, you know, it wasn't easy, but you made it. It wasn't easy, but you got through it. It wasn't the most perfect circumstance, but you made it work. And for that, I'm proud of you. For that, I'm proud of me, and I really hope that you are able to look back at the experience and give yourself grace and be able to move forward and start your healing process. And if you are in your undergrad years now and you're like, I hate this school, like, I will tell you 100% it gets better, especially if you're able to accomplish what you set out to do. And that's really all I have. Again, my name is Drayon Sabri. I make content around personal development, self-love, wellness, lifestyle, things like that. So please don't hesitate to subscribe, like, or comment if you was feeling a little salty about your undergrad experience as well, because honestly, I think it's a lot more of us that kind of have these experiences. And I know like even some of my friends, you know, they struggled. And I think, see, I be saying goodbye and telling y'all to subscribe, but then keep going. But yeah, I think like even with some of us, like, people see us in that working hard, that stress, those high stress levels, and you know, it is what it is. But I really thank you for watching. Again, leave a comment if you've had a little salty undergrad experience. I'd like to know how you handled it and what things are you doing to make sure, you know, you can move on from it and live your best life, because that's one thing about it always gets better. So see you next time. Bye. I just realized I'm sitting like outside of like a Universidad do Porto. It's like a museum. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, I'm in Porto right now. But yeah, I'll see you around. Thank you.